So let me be the first to admit that there are lots of roles that don't work well fractionally, and let's talk about some of those and maybe why it doesn't work. Sales. So we struggled with this one for a long time in terms of thinking that, could we, make use of fractional sales expertise and help? And we wondered, why does this not work? Why is it not working when we've tried? We actually have done some experiments with this. Finally, I realized the reason why these two, sales and CRO, or Chief Revenue Officer, why these roles don't work fractionally. And the key reason is not in control of your own calendar. That's the issue. And in fact, that's if you want to test for whether or not a role will work or could work fractionally, this is the key test. When it's a role where that role fundamentally doesn't have control of their own calendar. See, if I'm a salesperson and I'm trying to do a really good job for my company, then if the client wants to meet at Thursday at 2, I'm meeting on Thursday at 2, unless I'm meeting with another prospect on Thursday at 2. If it's Friday at 9, I'm meeting then. If it's Monday at 7 p.m., maybe I'm taking that meeting then. Obviously, there are limits, but you get my point. You don't have control of your own schedule if you're really going to do well, with sales. That's what I would argue. And in addition, the CRO role, particularly at smaller startups, a lot of what the person should be doing is blocking and tackling sales. And so for the same reason, because if you hire someone fractional that way, they've got other responsibilities, there just end up being too many calendar collisions. And then the worst is, let's say that your marketing team, let's say you've got a fractional growth marketer. They're doing a good job. They're actually getting ads or getting SEO content or getting content, on this platform, on LinkedIn. They're getting content out there, and it's resonating. So leads are coming in. But you want to hit those leads real time, immediately. How are you supposed to do that if your sales team is fractional, if they're not there to reach out when it's needed? And so these both get a big X for that reason, or I'll just cross them out. That is why neither of those roles can work. So then we move on to COO, or really COO and CEO, because both of these fall into the same trap. And the trap is really a simple one. And I would argue that it's because it's ill-defined. Maybe with CEO, I would say it's, I'm gonna change what I'm writing here. I'm gonna say new fire every day. That's how I sometimes feel about it. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, or a lot of you guys and girls, can empathize with this. New fire every day. There we go. So with both of these roles, COO, which is really maybe just a more execution-oriented version of CEO, maybe as you get larger, if you get large enough, you might have both roles, or you see both roles in a company, and the CEO maybe is a little bit more visionary and strategic, and the COO is supposed to block and tackle and keep the trains running on time, right? But the role is fundamentally ill-defined. You're jumping from fire to fire, or you're trying to build internal processes, but sometimes it's just jumping from fire to fire. With CEOs, hey, Elon Musk said it himself this way too, and I use him as a reference to someone who has run in quote-unquote founder mode very, very large-scale organizations. It's a new fire every day. You're always running to the worst performing part of the business and trying to figure out what's wrong and fix that. As a result, you have no control of your schedule. You're not in control of your calendar, and so to an extent, and so that issue pops up. But you also are not in control of what on earth it is you're working on, because to a certain extent, it is dependent on what the business needs. Now, of course, you're defining the agenda long-term, the big picture vision if you're CEO, but if you can't hand off the fires, then you certainly can't do it fractionally. And even if you can, there's just too much going on. So I would cross out both of these roles. These are both fails in my book as a result, and have never managed to have success. I've personally never managed to have any degree of success doing this. Relate one last story. I've tried to be a fractional CEO myself of another startup that I've been working on recently, just trying to do it on the side. And guess what? It just hasn't worked. I have not been able to divide my time effectively enough in that case. And so that doesn't work. contrast that with my own personal experience as the person delivering, I did over 3 years of work as a fractional engineer on behalf of other clients and did that successfully with very positive sort of feedback and reviews. So I knew that that could be done long before I started, my last couple companies. This is going back like over 15 years. But in trying to be a fractional CEO, I have personally seen that fail. So I have that I can speak to first person. We've tried this as well as from an organizational standpoint and seen fractional sales fail. And COO is very similar to CEO, so that's the trap I see there. Lastly, customer success. I'll throw one more in here, which is production support. That's a little bit more of an engineering equivalent of customer success in a way. Both of these, they mostly can't succeed. They are generally not great ideas fractionally, except, and that's the reason why I want to focus on for a moment, except if you can define hours. So if you can define the hours, with defined hours, this can work. So if you, for instance, need customer success in the evenings, late hours after your team is gone away or you need a spell for them. So that's something that could work fractionally. Similarly with production support. Maybe it's off hours or certain defined hours. It's very difficult, obviously by definition, to have a full day of production support or customer success from a fractional person. It's just not going to happen because you don't know when the call is going to come in. So again, you're not in control of your own calendar. So that doesn't work from a talent perspective. But if you can define the hours, you can get this to work. So I guess I'll give it 1 check. It definitely doesn't get 3 checks, but maybe it gets 1. It can work in that narrowly defined context.